Welcome back to the Testa Talk Sports podcast. And on today's podcast, we have some NBA offseason stuff to recap over the last week since we've last put our episode out. Then we're going to bring in George Misovec to talk about some baseball as we head into the All-Star weekend. Who's buying, who's selling, who's the favorites in the AL and the NL. And then finally, we'll finish off with some Clemson 2025 schedule breakdown. The college ball season is right around the corner. It is coming up quickly. A month from now, we're going to have some college football in August this year, not just week zero games. Like there's week one games in August this year, so it's creeping up here pretty soon. And then we'll finish up with some Wimbledon stuff. The quarterfinals are now set. The last round of 16 matchups were today. The last couple ones finished up center. So we have our quarterfinals. They're set in the men's and the women's. So we'll get into that today. And that's what we have to look forward to on the podcast this episode. Let's get into it.
All right, so we got some NBA offseason stuff to recap since we last shot a week ago. So what has happened in the last week? Well, we have a trade that happened yesterday. Thank God something happened. I don't know what we would have been leading this show with had this trade not been made yesterday. But we had a 3-team deal get done between the Miami Heat, the Los Angeles Clippers, and the Utah Jazz. This has really been the biggest news in the last week. Unfortunately, we had DeAndre Ayton time with the Lakers. Cam Whitmore got traded, but this was the big news yesterday. Norman Powell got traded from the Clippers to the Miami Heat. So the Miami Heat acquired Norman Powell. The Clippers got John Collins, and the Utah Jazz were able to get off of John Collins and get a second-round pick. So that was the 3-team deal. The Jazz also got Kevin Love and Kyle Anderson, but I highly doubt Kevin Love will play a single minute with the Utah Jazz. I'd be very surprised if he plays a minute with the Utah Jazz. So the Jazz get 2 old veterans and a second-round pick to move off of John Collins. And when I saw this yesterday, I said, wait a second, the Heat just got Norman Powell for free. That's basically what it was. We got Norman Powell for free. And I say we, obviously, because I'm a Heat fan. So we were able to move off of, by the way, this is a very rare Pat Riley offseason trade. He has not made an offseason trade, Pat Riley, in 4 summers, actually. The last time that the Heat made an offseason trade was for Kyle Lowry back in 2021 with the Hornets. Or not with the Hornets, with the Raptors, sorry. So they have not made offseason trades in a long time. It's been a while. Now, you can't count the sign and trade with Duncan Robinson. Duncan Robinson signed with the Pistons. They had to give us somebody in return because they didn't have enough money to sign him. So to free up money, they had to send us Fontecchio. That was not an actual trade. It's a sign and trade. It's much different. So just a straight up trade that Pat Riley's gotten involved in, that doesn't happen in the offseason. They've been linked for trades. Trade for Bradley Beal, trade for Damian Lillard, trade for Durant. They actually haven't traded for anybody in the offseason in a long time until yesterday. And they were able to somehow get off of 2 players who did not play for the Heat Kyle Anderson played sparingly in the playoff rotation, but he was a bottom of the rotation bench guy for the Heat. Kevin Love was not in the playoff rotation. Did not play for the Heat that much last year. He was dealing with some personal stuff, but they were able to basically turn 2 end of rotation bench guys into a 20 points per game scorer in Norman Powell. You'll take that any day of the week if you're the Miami Heat, who obviously lack half-court shot creation anyway. They've been needing to get some more innovation to their offense for a long time. It's a lot of just off-ball movement. They needed a guy who can just straight up go get a bucket, go north-south. And Norman Powell can go get a bucket. He showed that when Kawhi missed his 50 whatever games last year. He even showed that whenever it was Kawhi, Paul George, and Harden there. So he's been able to get his own shot for a while now. So Norman Powell's a guy who can straight up score. So if you're the Heat, this is a fantastic move. I mean, there's nothing. I'm a Heat critic at times. I'm like, okay, what is Pat Riley doing? Is he not going to do anything again? He's run back the same exact team. Because he's been running back largely the same team for a few years now with the same half-court shot creation problem, and they have not been able to overcome that hump because they don't actually improve their roster. That's really the Heat's downfall is in the Heat at times. They don't improve their roster from time to time. They just like, okay, we're good enough when they're clearly not good enough, and they're still not good enough. This Norman Powell move does not make them a top 4 team in the East. There's obviously more moves to be made, but it certainly feels like the Heat are going for it. You know, they're not. You don't trade for Norman Powell if you think you're going to be bad next year. Certainly, but they were able to get off of Kevin Love and Kyle Anderson, so that's a win, immediately a win. The Clippers get John Collins. People are dunking on the Clippers today and yesterday. I think this is a fine move, but now, of course, you lose Norman Powell, who's the best player in the deal. But the Clippers needed a forward. They needed a power forward. John Collins is a nice lob threat. He offers some things that the Clippers didn't have. He's obviously a cone defensively, but they don't really need defensive stalwarts. They have a pretty good defensive team anyways. So I didn't mind it from the Clippers to give him a second round pick, and he's an expiring deal. So I'll never hate on anyone for getting an expiring contract. So that's not, it's 1 year. If it goes wrong, who cares? You're not locking these guys long term anyways. That's the same thing I said about Porzingis with the Hawks. It's like a low risk, high reward. If Porzingis is good, the Hawks are going to be like, we made out like bandits. If he's not good, who cares? You move off him in a year. It's an expiring deal. The Jazz are getting dunked on, and they should be getting dunked on because now I get it from the Jazz. The Jazz fans that are coming in the comments, they're like, well, we got off John Collins. We really got off John Collins. First of all, like I just said, he's an expiring deal. So it's not like he's unmovable. He's not an unmovable player. Maybe 2 years ago he was. Maybe even last year it was tough to move. John Collins is no longer a guy that's tough to trade. He's an expiring deal. You should be able to trade him. They did. They got a second round pick. It's 1 second round pick. Not a big deal. We just saw Cam Whitmore go for 2 second round picks. So, by the way, that package wasn't very good either. I think Houston could have done a little better than that. But that's not a package the Jazz should be like, they got a trade exception. Ooh, they got a trade exception. So, whatever. Now again, I get the Jazz. They needed to clear up. We already understand. Clarkson had to go. Sexton had to go. And Collins had to go. This is a new youth movement for Utah. So we know those three guys had to leave. I'm not dunking on the Jazz for getting rid of three guys. We knew they needed to get rid of those guys. But the packages for all three are pretty terrible. You trade Sexton for Yusuf Nurkic. I mean, like what? Okay. Like, probably could have got better for Sexton. I'm assuming they could have got better for Sexton. Yusuf Nurkic is not good. So, and they just said we have a crowded front court. We want Walker Testa. I don't know, but they get Yusuf Nurkic for Colin Sexton. Okay, who cares? Then they can't even find a trade partner for Jordan Clarkson, so they buy him out. So they're not paying Jordan Clarkson to not play for the team anymore. He goes to the Knicks on the vet minimum, and he'll immediately help them. And then the Jazz trade John Collins for essentially nothing, a second round pick. The big thing they got in this trade was the trade exception. Not even a second round pick. They got a trade exception, $26 million trade exception. That's nice. Okay, the Jazz can keep help facilitating 3-team trades. But the real story here is the Clippers and the Heat. The Clippers get John Collins. They needed a 4. The Heat desperately needed a guy like Norman Powell. And Norman Powell is also an expiring deal. So had you told me 2 days ago, could the Heat get someone like Norman Powell? I'd be like, no way. They cannot get Norman Powell. There's no way. A guy like him won't be on the market. But he was an expiring deal. So those guys now are on the market in today's NBA. Those guys are getting traded pretty frequently. Guys on expiring deals are getting traded. You trade for them or you trade away them, but they are getting traded. So, like I just said, the Rockets traded Cam Whitmore for 2 second round picks. You're the Wizards. Sign up for that. Cam Whitmore is a nice young player. And the Wizards have a nice young team a little bit. I'm not gonna quietly say the Wizards have a nice young team. And I like Cam Whitmore a lot. But this was kind of not shocking because the Rockets, I should say, already had like a 10 deep team. And they bring in Durant. Now they trade away Green and Brooks. I guess they had a 9-man team at that point. But then they bring in Finney Smith and they bring in Clint Capella. So it's like, okay, you have 11 guys. Like there's not enough minutes to go around for all these guys. And they ended up trading Cam Whitmore, which was a little surprising to me, but not too surprising. As I just said, they added 3 guys in free agency trade, Durant and then Finney Smith and Capella in free agency. So they added 3 guys. It's like, okay, well, you still have some young players like Whitmore and Reed and Tari Eason. Who's the odd man out? Is Jabari Smith? Now they just extended Jabari Smith, so obviously it wasn't going to be him. So they ended up trading Whitmore. And if you're Washington, sign us up for that. More teams should be doing that. It's second round picks. Second round picks is not that important in the NBA. Now, recently teams have been trading like 5 second round picks. Maybe those are important, but a couple seconds, that's nothing. So Washington gets him for pretty cheap. And I think he's a nice young player. The Lakers get DeAndre Ayton. This is one I mentioned in the first episode. I said maybe their plan is to get DeAndre Ayton, but even then, I'm still calling them losers because like I said in the first episode, they lost Finney Smith. And I think losing Finney Smith is a big deal. And I don't think replacing him with Jackson Hayes, they didn't replace him with Jackson Hayes. They replaced him with Jake LaRavia, but they bring in a center. We know they needed a center, but even that, I get they feel a need, but I don't even think he's the best. Like, he's not necessarily an A+ fit with Luka. They now have 2 guys from the 2018 draft class, number 1 pick, DeAndre Ayton, and number 3 pick, Luka Doncic. But I don't even think he's necessarily a great fit with Luka. They needed a pure lob threat. And like that's who Luka had in Dallas, obviously, with Derek Lively, and Daniel Gafford. But he's not even that really. He's more of a pick and pop guy, or honestly even like a short roller where you get him at the foul line. But he's a nice young player. I mean, he's not really actually that young anymore, but he's a nice player, nice offensive player. His motor, we don't have to talk about that. It's not great. So the Lakers fans, he may drive Lakers fans crazy, but he feels the need. So good for the Lakers. And then we get the Valanciunas news, which is interesting. When I first recorded this, I was like, okay, Valanciunas is going to play for the Nuggets. And then a couple days later, he wants to play for Greece. He doesn't want to play for Denver. He does not want to be a backup center to Nikola Jokic and play for a top 3 team in the league. Okay, apparently he wants to play closer to home, which is in Greece. That's fine. but once in a lifetime opportunity to possibly win a championship in the Denver. And then a couple of days later, Denver says, you know what, screw that. We're still trading for you, and you are still under contract to play for us. So buck up and play for us, is basically what they said. And then earlier today, Valanciunas basically said, yeah, it's up to Denver. I mean, they have, I'm getting traded there. It's up to them what they do with the contract. And Denver already said, yeah, we are keeping you. We're trading Sarge, and we expect you to play for us under contract behind Nikola Jokic. So just a weird situation. Apparently, Valanciunas does not want to be a part of a winning team, and he wants to play in Greece. But he may not have a choice in the matter. Denver traded for him, and they have his contract rights. And just weird. I'm not here to dunk on Valanciunas or anything, but this is a guy who perpetually, if you don't follow Valanciunas very closely, he perpetually is just rotating around play-in rosters. He's on the Kings one year, he's on the Pelicans one year, he's on the Wizards before the Wizards trade him to a play-in team. That he just has to be in the play-in every year. He's just the epitome of mediocrity is where he wants to bounce around. Now he goes to a team which is a perfect situation. He gets to play behind Nikola Jokic, the best player in the world, and he's like, nah, I'm out. Just very shady. Thankfully, honestly, I'm glad Denver just said, screw you. Like we traded for you. We expect you to sit up and play for us. You're under contract, and they need a backup center. So it's just like, again, you want to win an NBA championship. You think this would be like a perfect fit, and Downtown would be very happy. I get some like maybe he's making a lot of money in Greece. Who am I to say don't go live back closer to home and make more money? But it's like, do you want to win an NBA championship? This is the best league in the world, and you're playing behind the best player in the world for a top 3 team in the league. Feels like, go play for them. But maybe it's easier sitting in this chair than actually doing it. The Suns are buying out Bradley Beal. It hasn't happened yet. It's not official, but it looks like they're going to buy out Bradley Beal. Some teams could obviously use him. He's linked to the Lakers. Everyone's linked to the Lakers. He was linked to the Heat. Now they got Norman Powell, so no longer linked to the Heat. Clippers would be an awesome fit. They now need Bradley Beal. They just lose Norman Powell. If you can add Bradley Beal, who's getting bought out by the Suns, basically you can add Bradley Beal for nothing, for free, and you add John Collins. That's an interesting team, the Clippers, if they can add a Bradley Beal. Obviously, Milwaukee's looking for any kind of guard at this point, so Bradley Beal might be linked to them. But who knows on the Bradley Beal front? We still have some days to see about that. And then we have again, back to Milwaukee, we have some veteran guards still on the loose, if you will, and Chris Paul, who it still looks like he wants to go to Phoenix or LA. LA being the Clippers. 2 teams that he already played for, the Clippers and the Suns. Because this is Chris Paul's last year. He announced a couple days ago. This is his retirement, his farewell year, if you will. But would he want to play with Milwaukee, the team that beat him in the finals the only time he got there, with Giannis, a team that just needs a point guard? How perfect of a fit would Chris Paul be? Really just any facilitating point guard. But Milwaukee desperately needs a point guard who can facilitate and just throw an entry pass to Giannis, or get the offense. Because again, right now it's Milwaukee. It's a bunch of front court guys. It's Miles Turner and Giannis, which is by far the best front court in the East. But they don't have anyone to dribble the basketball. They re-upped Ryan Rollins. Okay, they have Kevin Porter Jr. running some point right now. If the season started right now, he might be the starting point guard. That's a problem. They got spot up shooter Gary Trent Jr. It's a fine team, but they need a point guard. They need a point guard really bad. So Chris Paul's still out there. Russell Westbrook is out there. That's an interesting fit. It's just not a lot of shooting. Westbrook was a little on and off with the shooting last year, but at this point, he's offense, and they need offensive creation. So, Russ and CP3 are guys out there for veteran point guards. So Milwaukee desperately needs anyone at this point, and those are Hall of Famers. So it's not like they're nothing. Those are still guys who can play. And in a wide open Eastern Conference, you can't say Milwaukee shouldn't go after those guys, because those guys would immediately help their team. Like I said, they don't have a point guard, and those are 2 Hall of Famers just sitting out there right now for them to get. So that's the NBA recap. We'll quickly go over the Western Conference here. Just hear how ridiculously daunting this Western Conference is next year. Because I was looking at it after the Pelicans made a trade on draft night. I was like, Western Conference is kind of ridiculous next year, considering how many teams are going for it. So Oklahoma City is obviously defending champions. They're the favorite to win it again next year. Denver is returning everybody. They're returning their core, and they added Cam Johnson, Bruce Brown, and Jonas Valanciunas. That's a team that just took them to 7 games, and they could easily beat them next year if everyone's healthy. Houston was a 2 seed that added Kevin Durant and Finney Smith. You can't get much better than that. They were already a 2 seed last year, the only team that was behind OKC in the standings, and they added 2 guys that they desperately needed. The Timberwolves just made back-to-back Western Conference Finals, and they bring back basically everybody besides Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and Anthony Edwards keeps getting better and better and better every single year. So those 4 teams alone, I could be like, look at this Western Conference. Then you have the Clippers, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, Ivica Zubac, and now they add John Collins. If the Clippers can add one more guy, that's an interesting team. They've already got a nice bench. This is an interesting starting 5, though. John Collins may come off the bench anyways. They got Derek Jones Jr. They got Chris Dunn. They got some defensive guys there, anyways. They had one more piece. Clippers, because remember the Clippers are the team that took Denver to seven, and Denver's the team that took OKC to seven. OKC obviously won the championship. So if you're the Clippers, you can't really think that you're that far up. You're a game away, a hardened game away. If Aaron Gordon doesn't dunk that ball with no time left, maybe you beat Denver in that series, and maybe you beat Oklahoma City in 7 games. Maybe because obviously Aaron Gordon he could barely play in Game 7 with that hamstring injury. So the Clippers, you can't think they're that far away because they're not that far away. Obviously, it's playoff hardened, so maybe that's a little unrealistic. But OKC, Denver, Houston, Minnesota, the Clippers, the Lakers have Luka, LeBron, Austin Reeves, and they bring in DeAndre Ayton to fill a need. That's a 3 seed last year that had the need. The Warriors, Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond. This would be cool like 5 years ago. The Warriors are still out there lurking. They haven't made a single move so far. They're hoping for Al Horford to answer his phone and not retire, but it's an old team nonetheless. Very old team nonetheless. And they're not bringing back Kaminga. So it's a very old team, but it's still a good team. It's coached by Steve Kerr. Then you have Dallas. Dallas, I'm not sure how I'd rank them, but Dallas is really sneaky next year. Again, Kyrie's going to miss a chunk of the season, or at least the start of it. AD's coming off of surgery right now. He just announced today that he just got surgery. He will be ready for training camp, so he's not going to be injured throughout the year. But he is coming off with surgery, coming off an injury. So that's AD and Kyrie both coming off injuries. And then you have a rookie Cooper Flag that you kind of just throw into this whole thing. And he'll be playing in Summer League in a couple of days. So we'll see how he does. And you have Klay Thompson there. But it's an interesting Mavericks team. I don't know how good they'll be next year as far as like standings go. Maybe they won't be a top 4 or 5 team. But I do think they're like a playoff team. I think they're a top 8 team for sure. And that's a dangerous team if the right matchup presents itself. Then you have the Spurs, Wembanyama, year 3, Dylan Harper, year 1, and you have Stephon Castle here too. These are all guys that are, the timeline is right there. The Spurs, it feels like they're the Rockets of last year. They're just only getting better. I don't know if they make the playoffs or not, but they're going to be knocking on the door. They are coming, and they are only a couple of moves away. They added Luke Cornett. They had a pretty nice offseason, I think. San Antonio has. So watch out for San Antonio. They had 2 lottery picks. They got Dylan Harper and Carter Bryant. They're filling some needs. The Spurs are not far off. Watch, because it's very meteoric rises in the Western Conference. We saw OKC go from 22 wins to like 60 in a couple of years. We saw Houston go from 20 something wins to then 40, and then they won 50 games last year. So there's been some big rises by these small teams. San Antonio is another, not small teams, these younger teams. San Antonio is another younger team that can make another gigantic leap this year. And then Memphis is still pretty good. You still got Ja, you still got Jaren. Pelicans are kind of going for it with Zion. Can he play more than 50 games? Trey Murphy's there. They get Jeremiah Fears in the draft. They get Derek Queen in the draft, 2 lottery picks. DeJounte Murray coming off the Achilles injury. How will he be? They added Looney from Golden State. They added Jordan Poole, who used to play with them in Golden State. So they're going for it. Are they a play-in team in the West? You can talk me into it. And I didn't even mention the Suns. Probably shouldn't have mentioned the Suns. I haven't mentioned the Kings, who I called last week's episode. They're basically the Western Conference version of the Chicago Bulls. So the Kings, you could talk me into them being a play-in team. And Portland, I kind of like Portland. I like everyone in the West besides Utah. If you told me any of the 14 teams in the Western Conference are in the play-in, I'd be like, yeah, you're not crazy. Because I could see Portland, who might be the 13th or 14th best team in the Western Conference right now. I could see them being in the play-in. I would not be surprised if any of these teams besides Utah, obviously, are in the play-in next year. Or are a top 10 team. If you told me they're a top 10 team in the West, I'd be like, yeah, you're not crazy. Because it's a deep conference. These are good teams. I think New Orleans is pretty good. They might be the 11th best team. So, just craziness. If I had to rank them right now, just for fun, I'd go OKC 1, Denver 2, Houston 3, Minnesota 4. I think I'd go Clippers 5. I would say Dallas 5, but I don't think if I was just go standing, I don't think Dallas would be a top 5 team in the record-wise next year. So I think obviously Kyrie's missing a chunk of the year. AD is going to, come off injury. They have a rookie. I'd go Clippers 5, Dallas 6, or maybe Lakers 6, Dallas 7, and I'd probably go Golden State 8. And to round out the plan, I think I'd go San Antonio and Memphis at 10, but you could talk me into New Orleans at 10, and you could talk me into Sacramento at 10, and you can talk me into Phoenix and Portland at 10. Anyone besides Utah, you can talk me into it. So that's the rundown. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to bring in George Misovec to talk some MLB baseball and a little bit of Clemson football, and that will be what we have after this break.
All right, we are back, and we are welcomed by George Misovec to talk some baseball. We are heading near the All-Star break, about a week away. The Jays had their 10-game win streak snapped today by the White Sox just a couple hours ago. That was tragic, but overall, nonetheless, a very good couple weeks. So yeah, we have George here talk some baseball. The Nationals just fired their manager. Uh, George, what's happening with the struggles of the Nationals? I mean, talk to us about
Yeah.
the Nats. What's been happening?
Yeah. I mean, for one, I want to say I'm excited to be here. I appreciate you having me on, excited to get it going here. But I mean, when it comes down to the Nats and stuff, frankly, in my opinion, it should have happened a long time ago. And I'm a Nats fan. It should have happened probably at least a year ago. I mean, Davey Martinez, he had a great run. He won a World Series, obviously. But I mean, for the last 5 seasons in a row, it's been the bottom of the barrel, right? What really surprised me was with letting the general manager Mike Rizzo go too,
Yeah.
especially a week before the draft. I mean, I understand, you want the new regime to get in there, get their preferred draft choice, stuff like that. Know what they're doing. But
But it's a
I
little
mean,
late to do that. We're cutting it close
absolutely.
here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
But
super late, but I mean, I personally think it was the right decision. I mean, fans in DC, I think they're ready to support this team. I mean, obviously I'm a little biased, but we saw it kind of in the football world this past year. I mean,
oh yeah.
DC Jaden Daniels, the Commanders, the new ownership, that whole thing. I mean,
Yeah.
we haven't seen fans like that in DC in quite some time. So I mean,
When they're
I
good,
would
they're showing out. Yeah. If they're good, they
ab-
can get good fast. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, when DC sports are at its best, the fans love it, and so I think it just comes down to having owners who are willing to spend. I mean, you're in the NL East, you got to be able to open up your pockets a little bit, but
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things to go into here. What did you think about it?
Well, I mean, it's obviously you mentioned that it was overdue. I think it was long overdue. I mean, you get the Marlins passing you in the standings. That's almost that's like the final nail in the coffin. I mean, obviously you just mentioned you have to spend big. You're in the NL East. You got the Phillies, the Braves, and the Mets, who all are going to open their pockets and spend money and try to get some all-star rosters. Then the Marlins, who have like one of the smallest payrolls in baseball, then they pass the Nationals, and the Nationals are suddenly in the sellers. They're the sellers in they're the bottom of the division in the NL East. If you ask Nationals fans, obviously, if I told you that at the start of the season, you'd be behind the Marlins heading into the All Star break. What would you tell me? You'd probably be like, "That's not good enough. We can't be behind the Marlins. We got a good young squad. We got James Wood. We got C.J. Abrams. We got some guys here. There's no way that we can be behind the Marlins at the All Star break." So it's yeah, no, it's I completely agree, but I also agree with you that it might be a little late. Obviously, you want to get your new regime in there to pick the draft is coming up here,
Mhm.
but why wouldn't they have done it like a month before even or not even a month before, but once Davey Martinez called out the players, I think that was when the signal alarms were going off. I'm like, okay, something's wrong here. This is not this is not gonna be
Absolutely.
a good marriage here for long.
Absolutely. I mean, when Davey made that quote, I was a little taken aback. I mean, he's always been kind of the way I've seen a player's coach, a guy players
Right,
want
right.
to play for. And so maybe he kind of felt like he was trying to save his job a little bit, just throwing it against the wall, throwing whatever might stick against
Yeah.
the wall. But absolutely, you're right. I mean, it should have happened a month ago. I think we lost, it was like 11 or 12 in a row at one point there. I mean, at that
Got
point,
swept by
how
the
do you
Rockies or
got swept by the
lost three out
Rockies?
of
I
four,
was
yeah.
I was in the building to lose the second one against the Rockies. It was just not pretty. There was probably 1,000 fans there. But I mean, it should have happened a long time ago. And like I said a second ago, the surprising thing was letting Mike Rizzo go with
Yeah.
him. I mean, he's been there since I want to say 2007. He's been the full-time general manager since 2018, and he's a guy that the fans really do like. But at the end of the day, I mean, he's had some really great trades. I mean, obviously you talk about the Juan Soto trade,
Oh
one
my
of the best
gosh.
trades truly in
Yeah.
the recent history.
The
And if it wasn't for
package, yeah.
incredible. And if it wasn't for that trade, there's a good chance. I mean, you can't get more bottom dweller than we are. But if we didn't have James Wood on this team and C.J. Abrams, obviously Mackenzie Gore having a Cy Young level season too.
He's
I
been
mean, there
awesome.
would just
Yeah.
there'd be no hope at all. So, I mean,
You'd be the
I think
Rockies. Without those guys,
you'd
you'd be
be
the
the
Rockies,
Rockies.
literally. Yeah.
I forgot who said that. There was a quote someone said exactly. I think it might have been Ken Rosenthal. But I mean, he's
Yeah.
absolutely right. Like, you got to be able to spend, and the guys aren't spending. And I think the real struggle and the real challenging part is the fact that you see Juan Soto, Bryce Harper, Trey Turner. You see him go to teams in your division. I mean, at a certain point, you gotta anchor down and build around a guy. And you mentioned him earlier. I mean, James Wood absolutely has to be that
Incredible.
guy. He grew up
Yeah.
in Maryland. He's from the area. He's only 22 years old, and I think I'd go, obviously a little biased, but I'd go on to say that he's one of the best players, not just young players, one of the best
In
players in the
baseball.
entire sport. The entire sport.
Period.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's one of the fastest runners. Can't talk enough about how far he hits the ball, and his
The
fielding's
numbers
only
back
getting
it
better.
up. Yeah.
The
The numbers
numbers
back it up.
absolutely back it up. So if there was a guy to build around, I would hope that this new regime. I hope this is the guy they build around. But you just never know with these with the learners at the helm. So
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. So let's talk about a team that actually is spending. The New York Yankees, but they
yeah,
are struggling right now. They have completely collapsed a 10-game lead in the AL East, a once 10-game lead in the AL East. They are now three behind, and they've had some injuries. Obviously, their pitching staff. They lose Cole to the elbow surgery before the year started, so they know he's out for the year. But they still
Mhm.
get off to a really good start. And then they just completely crumbled down the stretch. Their bullpen's been terrible. Their pitching hasn't been up, and now they lose Clark Schmidt for the year. So the
Mhm.
Yankees are kind of in a sideways spiral. They did win last night against the Mariners, but overall, it's been Aaron Judge and a bunch of nothing else. And the Yankees have seen their division lead completely evaporate. Now they're in second place, and the Rays might pass them tonight as we speak. So,
Mhm.
what's going on with the Yankees? Can they get the ship written back? Obviously, they're still in the playoff spots. So there's no need to act like the sky is falling. But
Yeah.
man, it certainly seems like this is not what Yankees fans expected a month ago.
I mean, definitely. And thing is, sometimes you got to look back at the bigger picture. And you go back to the beginning of the year, the Yankees weren't exactly a favorite to win the AL East. I mean, they're coming off a good year, but you lose Juan Soto. I thought they made a couple of really nice additions in the offseason. I liked
Bellinger,
getting Bellinger. I
yeah.
like getting Devin Williams. I liked a few of those moves. But I mean, like it just kind of feels like up the middle. Volpe's been so inconsistent. He can't hit for anything
Ooh,
right now, and the
no.
fielding's been terrible. And like you said, the pitching, you lose Garrett Cole at the beginning of the year. Obviously, it's not going to be what you want it to be. And Max Fried's been really good, which is credit to them. That's been a really good signing. But you can't win the World Series with one guy. You need multiple guys. You need to be able to make a deep run. And I don't think the bullpen's been terrible, but I mean it's not what they want it to be. And so I mean,
Situationally, yeah.
situationally, exactly. I mean, you got Aaron Judge, so you're going to be in a decent spot. And it's the Yankees. They're going to spend. You got to assume, at least you think, they're going to buy at the deadline.
They'll
They're
be
going to be one of
buyers. They'll
those
be
teams.
buyers. Oh
Exactly,
yeah.
they'll be buyers. And I think that there's also something to be said about the AL is not at its highest right now. I
It's
think
wide
that
open.
I think
Wide
that's
open.
wide open. I mean, I really like Detroit, which I'm sure we'll get into in a little bit here.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And I like Detroit a lot. Houston's obviously always competing, and
They're
the AL East is
inevitable.
like
Yeah.
AL East is the AL East. But I mean, if there was ever a year where it's like, the Yankees took a step back, losing Juan Soto, maybe they're not going to go to the World Series. But I mean, I don't think there's any by any means is hope lost there. I think it just comes down to, I mean, you got to turn it on in August. You got to come out of
Exactly.
the All-Star break strong, and you got to be able to turn it on when it matters. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think this Yankees team as currently constructed probably cannot go to the World Series. Now, there's deadline moves to be made, but if you ask any Yankees fans, if they're not making the World Series, the season's a bust. According to that's not a lot of teams think way of thinking, but if the Yankees, if they don't make the World Series, the first thing you hear when they get eliminated, if it's the ALDS or the ALCS, when is Aaron Boone going to be fired? Because it's not
Hmm.
nothing's good enough unless it's a World Series in New
Hmm.
York. So no, I'll echo what you're saying because the AL is wide open right now as we head into the All-Star break. And one of those teams that's on a hot streak right now is the Jays. The
The Jays
Jays have
themselves.
won 10 in a row. They've caught the Yankees. They now are in first place by 3 games. I can't believe what I'm seeing right now, George. And I'm the Jays fan. I could
Yeah.
not believe what I'm seeing. And it hasn't been the guys that you would think for Toronto. We know it's spring. We know spring. Now Springer's had an insane year, but
Mhm.
we know Springer, we know Bichette, and we know Vladdy. But it's for Toronto, really. It has been the bottom of the order, the middle guys in the bottom of the order. Ernie Clement, Nathan
Mhm.
Lucas, Alejandro Kirk, Joey Loper, Fido. It's been
I
guys
mean,
that looks
yeah,
like who are these guys? But they're keeping the
exactly.
Jays afloat. And now they have a 3 game lead in the division. What has impressed you about the Jays, George? Because I don't think you saw this coming either. I
Uh,
certainly haven't.
I mean, no, I wouldn't have said at the beginning of the year that the Jays would have been the team leading the AL East going into the All-Star break. But I mean, you gotta respect the talent that's there. You got everyone's son. You got Bichette and Vladdy and X, Y, and
Everyone's
Z. You got everyone's
yeah.
son. But I mean, obviously it comes down to the pitching. I think Barrios has been solid,
He
and
really is.
I'm blanking on the guy's name right now. Oh my goodness,
Gosman's been striking
Gosman.
everybody out,
Gosman.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
Gosman's been. I mean, he's been a step back from what he was before, and Bassett, of course. Like when it
yeah.
comes down to making those
They
kind of
have a
runs, you
three.
gotta
You
you
have
gotta
to have a
have a
three.
top three, right? And also, I mean, it's the consistency of playing clean baseball. You gotta get the hits in situational spots, and so it's like I look at the stats for this team. It's not like someone's having a huge year. It's not like they've got a Shohei Ohtani, an Aaron Judge, a Cal Raleigh at this point. I mean, it's not like
Sure.
anyone's hitting 30 plus homers, but I mean, you got everyone is in there doing their job. Look, I mean, games played 87, 70, 90, 91. Guys aren't missing games. The guys are
No,
healthy.
they're
And so, I
healthy for
mean,
the most
if you
part. Yeah.
can you can mesh, you can build together. That's what it takes to win a bunch of ball games. It's like you said, 10 wins in a row. They just came off, snapped the winning streak today to the White Sox. But I mean, I'm really excited about the Jays, and I think that this is a team that maybe a couple additions here or there. I mean, the bullpen's been solid lately. They've been honestly
They have
overall
to
as a
add an
pitching
arm.
staff. I
Yeah.
think yeah, absolutely. But that lineup is built to win, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, they have to add an arm at the deadline. Not because the bullpen's been bad; it's actually been pretty good. But they've been in so many one-run games the last 2 weeks. Like their run differential is only like +8, and they're
Hmm.
obviously almost 20 games over 500. So they're winning a lot of close games, but they're winning a lot of one-run games and two-run games. So they've had to use Jeff Hoffman a ton. They've had to use Jimmy Garcia a ton,
Hmm.
Braden Fisher. They've had to use these guys a ton. Chad Green, and you have to bring in somebody else in that bullpen. Everyone needs bullpen help at the deadline. The Jays obviously have played in so many one-run games that they desperately need help with it, and they need a fourth or fifth starter. Right now, Max Scherzer's that fourth starter, but he's on a pitch count every time he plays.
Yeah, I
And
mean, yeah,
Max
what is he,
Scherzer,
40 years old? Yeah,
yeah,
I
we,
mean,
we love Max, but he's like at this point he's
yeah, I mean, you have him
yeah,
there to be that fourth or fifth guy, you know. And when it
right.
gets to playoff time, you hope he's going to be peaking.
He's gonna
Obviously, you hope
increase,
he's going to
right?
take that next step. But I mean, yeah, like you said, you need to have another arm in that bullpen. You got to be able to rest your guys. You know, it's baseball's a long year, 162 games. Then ideally another 30 plus playoff games you're going to play, whatever it is. And so, I
Right.
mean, it's a long season, but yeah, I mean, the Jays look deadly. The Jays look solid.
Yeah, if
So
they add a fifth starter, Eric Lauer's their fifth starter right now, which I don't think they
Eric
even
Lauer, I
thought
mean,
when they signed Eric Lauer in the free agency. I don't think that anyone expected him to be their fifth starter because they were. I mean, now Manoa's coming back healthy in a couple weeks, so we'll see. But
yeah,
they need to add a
I'm
fifth
excited
guy.
to see Manoa for
So
sure.
yeah, but
Yeah,
if
I
they
mean,
can, I like the lineup. But yeah, if they can add some
absolutely.
arms,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Arms for sure. I mean, it just there's a few things, you know, it comes down to just playing consistent. And like I said, the AL is not too difficult this year, but the AL East is always going to be a challenge. It's always going to be a bloodbath. So we shall
yeah,
see.
one or two moves at the deadline because of how wide open the AL is, and there's going to be some sellers in the NL that you wouldn't think have been
So
sellers.
many.
We'll
Yeah.
get into who's buying and who's selling in a little bit, but the
Hmm.
Diamondbacks are struggling. They're falling out of it a little bit. The Braves obviously are not even
The
close at this
Braves feel
point.
like you don't know what you're going to get any given week. You know, they swept the Mets, they or whatever it was, they won
They
three out of
won
four from the
three out of
Mets.
four against the Mets.
Three
Yeah,
out of four against the Mets, and then I think they're losing to the Athletics right now or something. And
yeah,
so you never know. And obviously they're just getting Acuna back, and so you can't really call the Braves sellers. But
right.
in my opinion,
They're like
and
eight
it's
back.
they're yeah they're I
You
think
know,
they're 13 games under 500, 12 games under
it's
39 and
it's
51,
rough.
and so
Yeah,
it's rough. And I think that in Atlanta for the last, and I think the Braves fans will tell you the exact same thing, for the last basically I'd say 4 years since the World Series, up the middle, shortstop, second base. And honestly, this year, Michael Harris has not been playing to his potential either. But
right.
up the middle, shortstop, second base has been a huge question mark.
They're
And then
middle infield. They're just like
you just
who's
don't
this?
know,
Yeah,
right? And you had Orlando Arcia there for a while. Obviously, you lost Dansby Swanson not short after the World Series.
to
And so you
Chicago. Yeah,
had some guys there, Chicago. But I mean, like Ozzy Albies, he's a guy who he's on a really favorable team deal, but he's been pretty underwhelming this season. I mean, I
yeah.
think
I have
the
him in fantasy. I
OPS,
know. I know.
you haven't,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. I'm sure you know the OPS is in the low 600s, and the glove is solid, but it's like second base, you need some production
mm,
there. So
yeah.
it's, and you get Acuna back, so you're going to get that jolt to the offense. And obviously, Matt Olson is kind of bounced back. He's having a Matt Olson year. He's one of the best first basemen in the league. But yeah, I mean, the Braves, you just never really know what you're going to get on any given night, and it kind of makes them fun to watch.
Yeah, no, it really does. That's a really good point. So okay, so we'll go. I'll give two. You'll give two. Who are your two favorites? I guess you'll go two in the AL and two in the NL. If as of right now, as we go into the All Star break, put if you were to say these two teams are getting out of the World Series, if it's not these two teams, I'd be very surprised. Or these two teams are getting to the World Series.
You're
Um,
saying two from each
yeah.
division, from each.
Or no, yeah, two from each league. So if I was to go like Detroit and Houston in the
Yeah.
AL, if one of those teams are coming out of
Um.
the AL or something like that, but
Yeah. I cannot speak highly enough about Detroit. I think Detroit
incredible.
is right now they're that team. I mean, you even listened to I saw Tarek Skubal. He did an interview. I think it was like the Pardon My Take Boys, and he
Yeah,
just
yeah,
talks
yeah.
about like not just the baseball they're playing because obviously Tarek Skubal is a freaking stud. He's
He's
like
insane.
6'4", throws a million miles an hour, and he's got a million pitches. But it's not just that; it's also they're having fun playing the game. They're not taking it too seriously. They know it's a long season, and you talk about it from the Jays getting production everywhere. The Tigers, I think, have five
One through
All
nine.
Stars,
Yeah.
1 through 9. I mean, Zach McKinstry just got named to the
He
All
just
Star
got
team,
indicted. Yeah. They could
and
have
yeah,
another
I
one if
mean,
they really want to. Torkelson,
exactly.
you
And
could honestly throw in.
you got Javi Baez having a resurgence. I mean, how could you expect that? Torkelson, I think he's got 20 plus bombs and OPS in the 800s. If he
He
cuts
could
down on
make an
those
argument.
strikeouts,
Yeah.
he could be one of the best first basemen in the entire league.
It's
So I mean,
incredible.
I love Detroit. I love what they're doing. And Casey Mize really having a really, really
Dog.
good year. I mean,
Yeah.
having that number two guy, like you look at some of those World Series teams, like having the number one and the number two. Like it's
Yeah.
not just having your ace. You gotta have depth. And it feels like the Tigers are so good. So if out of the AL, if I had to pick one, I'd say the Tigers. Uh, After the Tigers, I mean, I like the Jays a lot. You just never know with what moves are going to be made and how guys are going to start playing. Like, can you rely on what was he said, Loper Fido to be
Loperfido at the end of the order. Yeah.
to be giving you those at bats when it comes to September? but I like the Jays a lot. I mean, you can't count out the Yankees, like you mentioned the Astros.
The
But if
Astros
I
are
had to pick a
inevitable.
team
Yeah.
in Detroit, I'd say it's
Detroit.
or in the AL, I'd say it's Detroit.
I agree with you on Detroit. Now the Jays, not to make it about the Jays, but the Jays they're without Dalton
Make it about the
Varsho.
Jays. Yeah.
They're without Dalton Varsho. Anthony Santander's on a 60-day injured list, so they're without their big acquisition as far as their big acquisition bat, which is Santander.
Mhm.
Andres Jimenez has been in and out of the lineup, but he's more of their defensive glove. But the Jays aren't totally healthy. Everyone seems to think the Jays are at like no health issues at all. They are missing Santander. Alek Manoah obviously had Tommy John at the end of last year. Um, and Jimenez has been in and out of the lineup. And Varsho, who's one of the best gloves in the outfield, has missed some time. But
Mhm.
if I had to go, I'd say I would agree Detroit. And then the Astros. What more can you say about the Astros? Because the Astros have so many injuries. And have you looked what Hunter Brown's been doing for the Astros this year? They
Let me get exactly those stats up. But I mean, the Astros, it feels like every year they've got
inevitable.
some guy coming in from the minors that's just ridiculous. Whether
It's
it's a pitcher
insane.
or an infielder. Yeah, Hunter Brown. I knew he's having a year. Wow, he's having a really
He's
good
having
year.
an incredible
I mean,
year.
yeah, it just feels like you can't there's the whole cheating thing, and everyone hates on the Astros,
But
but
they're
you
just
can't deny
incredible.
that they develop players.
Yeah,
They cheated obviously, and that will
totally
always
get it.
hang over them. Totally get it. But even when that team kind of shifted out, I mean, they've lost Bregman now. The only player left from that team is Jose Altuve, I want to
Yeah,
say at
it's
this point,
Altuve. Yeah,
and
yep.
who's also still dominating. But
They haven't even had Jordan that much
they
this year.
haven't
He's been
had
in
yeah, it's just the Astros. It feels like there's always a guy.
someone's doing. Yeah.
Yeah, but I
Keanu
mean,
Smith's been having a heck of a year. I would say Detroit and Houston out of the AL. The NL is more clear and
NL
cut.
feels like it might just be
It's
the Dodgers,
just the Dodgers. Yeah,
It's
the
just the
Dodgers have lost.
Dodgers.
The Dodgers have lost five in a row, but I'm not really. They got
I
swept by the
saw that,
Astros.
but they've won 15 to 23. So it's
Yeah,
like
they're exactly.
they drop five and they still have 56
They're
and
still
37. And
yeah,
it's
and
just
they got
like,
swept by the Astros, who we just mentioned are a really good team. So it's not like they're
yeah.
losing to the
So I mean,
Rockies.
yeah, I mean you can't speak highly enough about the Dodgers. They're pitching wise, it wasn't what was expected. You
There's
came into
some
the year,
yeah.
they had I want to say like Glass now, Yamamoto,
Yamamoto.
Otani when he gets back, Kershaw,
We
obviously. So
thought
they
it'd be
had
unstoppable,
guys.
right? We
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 thought it'd
thought
be
it would be
unstoppable.
unstoppable, but
And obviously Yamamoto's having a really, really nice year. But I mean, outside of him, it's been kind of like touch and go. I mean, Kershaw is obviously not what he used to be. Still
right, yeah.
effective, but he's not what he used to be.
Still
But I
an
mean,
all stars. Yeah,
it's
you got him in the all
crazy
star. Yeah,
because of course he's he's the legend pick. He's the
exactly.
whatever
He's
it
like the
was.
Dirk Nowitzki whenever it was
The
his last
Dirk
year.
pick,
Yeah,
the
of
Dirk and D Wade pick.
course. Yeah. Well,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, but like it's just when you face that lineup, it's just a nightmare. I mean, we played in LA like 2 weeks ago, and Mackenzie Gore, it's like you literally don't have a break. And when
No,
you got Shohei and you get through Shohei, you got
there's
Mookie, and
no holes in the lineup.
Mookie's
Then you get
having a
Freddie.
down year, and you get Freddie. But then it's like you also getting Will Smith having the best year of his career, and it's like
Teoscar
now when you
Hernandez in the middle.
Teoscar,
Yeah.
and I love the
Where do you
Teoscar signing.
go? I
I
love
mean,
Teoscar. Yeah.
that was such a good move. I feel like I couldn't believe they let the Dodgers get Teoscar because they already have so many guys. But
Yeah.
it's like now that team is so good. So
Yeah. To add a middle of the order bat like Teoscar, it seems unfair
I think like
because they
that guy's
already have.
batting
Yeah.
sixth or whatever it is. It's like he should be hitting third anywhere else
That's
in
what
the
I'm
league.
saying. It's like anywhere else you would not be hitting fifth or sixth, wherever he's at,
Absolutely.
but yeah, so it's the Dodgers, and now people are saying, who could be the Dodgers? A lot of people like the Phillies.
Phillies,
I
I
just,
think we got to give a little respect to the Cubbies. The
the Cubs are
Chicago
playing
Cubs.
so good, aren't
I
they?
think
Yeah,
that I mean that lineup is very good. Obviously, Pete Crow Armstrong, PCA, that's my dog. He's having a great
we love.
year.
Oh, he's having an
Kyle
insane year.
Tucker as well. Kyle Tucker in a contract year. He's going to
Yeah,
get absolutely paid. And then Michael Bush. I don't know if you've been aware of the Michael Bush
yeah,
spottings,
the
but
Renaissance.
he's got an OPS approaching 1,000. Michael
Yeah,
Bush, and so it's crazy. I mean, Matt, that rotation is okay. I mean, I think
is it
they're
good
kind of
enough in a 5 game series or
exactly.
a
I
seven
think
game?
they're kind
Right,
of like the Jays, where it's like you're
they
not
needed one
exactly positive, but the
one
lineup is there
more.
to win.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
hundred
So
percent.
it's
The lineup's
like
good enough. Yeah.
so I think that's kind of what it always comes down to, though, right? At the end of the day in the playoffs is having that pitching. And
Can
so
you
I
get enough
mean,
pitching to get the outs that you can get through a 5 game series or a 7 game series?
yeah.
Which is
I mean,
my one question with the Cubs. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. I think I think someone said Zach Gallen, the Diamondbacks, if the Diamondbacks do end up selling,
If
that
they
would be a
didn't
really
sell,
nice
yeah.
fit. If Zach Gallen could get to Chicago, I think that would be really good for them. Because I mean, there's not a ton of guys pitching wise that are going to be on the market in
No, if you have them, you
for the
keep
trade
them.
deadline.
Yeah.
Exactly. I saw somebody talking about the Tigers trading Skubal because they're not going to want to pay him the 450 million. It's probably all garbage. I probably read into it
Oh,
too much,
whoa.
but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's like you just nobody's free. There's
No.
no pitchers available. So I
The
mean,
Jays, the Jays fans I was talking to were saying, "Hey, we need to go get DeGrom." The problem is the Rangers aren't that
DeGrom.
far out of the Rangers aren't that far out to be sellers either.
Yeah,
They're like
I
three
wouldn't
back.
I didn't have the Rangers in my sellers list. What are
I didn't
they? What are
either.
they like 40, 42,
They're like
47 or
right
something
around
like that?
500. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
like
maybe
three games
just a
under.
little, yeah,
Yeah,
45 and 47. So I mean
yeah, two
that's
games
not a
under.
bad
Yeah,
team. And the West, I mean, you just don't know what you're getting out of the West. I
the
will say
Angels are. Yeah,
like the Angels are probably one of those teams where you lean towards selling.
I'd
Athletics,
lean so.
obviously,
Yeah,
I'm sure they're going to sell. Although I've got a lot of respect for what the Athletics are doing. They've got a ton of young guys that I'm really interested in,
and
and
they're
so
playing good ball too.
they're
Yeah,
playing
those young
very
guys
good
are
ball.
playing good.
I mean, what's Lawrence Butler? That feels like that guy's on Sports Center every single night. It's
It's
so
incredible.
cool. But I mean, you just never know, right? But they've got a what's his name? Luis Severino. Wouldn't be shocked to see him dealt.
He
He's
could
one of
get it.
those
Yeah.
guys who, if he steps on it, finds lightning in the bottle at the right time for a playoff team. He's one of those guys he could be a hero. You just never know. But
By the way, real
just
quick,
so
I
tough.
you said the Angels are a lean sell. I kind of agree. I would love to see, and I don't know, they don't think they'll do this, but I would love to see Kenley Jansen make his way onto a team that could be in the playoffs. Because I don't think the Angels are making the playoffs. I think we both agree with
No, I
that.
wouldn't imagine. No.
But Kenley Jansen has been quietly really, really good. They brought him in against the Jays because we had two games against the Angels back to back that went to extra innings. He went 1-2-3, 1-2-3 both times. He went out there
Wow.
both back to back nights, top of our order. It made us look pretty silly. I'm like, this Kelly Jansen still got some. He's still got some
I
stuff.
mean, Kenley Jansen, he's always been a nightmare to face. I think he's
It's a
approaching.
nightmare.
He might already have 500 saves. He's like a
It's crazy.
kind of. You can make an argument he's a Hall of Fame guy.
100%. Yeah,
But
you can
but
make that
yeah,
argument.
absolutely. There's a ton of teams that I can imagine would love that bullpen help. I mean, help. I mean, the Yankees were the first one we talked about. That
Yeah,
bullpen's been just kind of a nightmare as of late. But I mean, like, yeah, there's a million. The Phillies, like we talked about, they could use the bullpen help. So yeah, I
Romano's
wouldn't
been
be
up and
shocked
down. Yeah,
if
100%.
they. I mean, yeah, because the Angels, it feels like that's been the same team for the last 10 years, and it
Yeah, it
really
really has.
sucks
They're
because
mixing
they
in some
had
guys in and out, but it's mostly the same team.
they got Rendon, and it sucks because it felt like that was kind of the next move, right? You get Trout, Shohei, and then
And
Rendon
Rendon,
was kind of their
that top
third
three.
move,
Yeah,
and obviously that blew up
it
in their
backfired.
face. But I mean, it sucks because it feels like for the last who knows how long the Angels have just been a nothing burger, right?
Right.
And so I mean, I'm excited to see Joe Adell's a fun little piece. They
He's been
got
really good. He had a grand slam against us a couple days ago. He's been really
yeah,
good.
I mean he's been playing well. So
Right.
who knows? But it's like
Maybe
to
they can
watch
sell off
them,
some pieces that, yeah,
yeah, to watch them waste the career of Mike Trout though, it's just kind of
it's just
heartbreaking to
tragic.
watch.
It's tragic. Yeah. You mentioned real quick, I'll go back to the Yankees here because while we're on the topic of sellers, the Diamondbacks, Eugenio Suarez is having a monster year that's going to absolute waste because the Diamondbacks cannot close games to save their life.
Yeah.
So
No.
they, the Yankees might need another bat in their lineup because right now it's Judge, a little bit of Jazz Chisholm, and a bunch of nothing else, really. Stanton just
I
hit
mean
his
that
first
that
homer last week.
yeah.
So they need some home run pop in their bat that's not Aaron Judge.
That would be
Eugenio
I
Suarez
think
has like 30 bombs or close to 30
yeah,
bombs.
I think it's 28 bombs, 74 RBIs, 83 hits. I mean,
Insane.
he's having at age 33, 34, he's having a really good year. And he's
Yeah.
underpaid as hell. I mean,
Yeah,
this
it's good
that's a
contract.
guy
Yeah.
that would be a great marriage, I think. And the Yankees need another infielder. I would definitely say. I mean, we talked about Volpe's obviously struggling, and
Right.
they just DFA'd LeMahieu, I'm pretty sure, like
They
15
did. Yeah.
minutes ago.
Yeah.
So I mean, they saved a little money. So that would be, I think, a great signing or a great trade there if they could
They're
get
trade.
Eugenio
They can.
Suarez.
If the
Yeah,
Diamondbacks are if they're sellers, the Yankees are immediately the team I'm thinking
yeah.
of that could
And
use a bat
the
like this.
D-backs, what are they? They like same, like 5 games under 500.
Right. In the
I
NL,
mean,
it's more challenging though
NL,
because the
especially the
wild
NL
card.
West. I mean, that's
Yeah, the team,
yeah, it's just
it's a gauntlet of a division, and the Diamondbacks are right now 5 back, so you can talk yourself into it. The problem is they're not gaining any ground because the teams in the wild card are mostly winning. It's contrary
yeah.
in the AL where
It's hard to
the
climb the
Yankees
wild
keep
card
losing,
ladder.
The Rays are struggling, but they're not losing any ground because the teams behind them are still losing. The Royals have been losing a bunch
Mhm.
recently. The Red Sox had like lost 5 in a row, now they've won 5 in a row. The Guardians lost like 11 of 12, so they've completely fallen
Yeah,
out. So teams in the AL don't want these last playoff spots in the AL. In the
yeah.
NL,
No,
it's
it
like you got
feels
some good
like it.
teams,
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
So the
we
Diamondbacks is
shall
a tough hill
see.
to climb. Yeah, they got to climb like 5 teams, but yeah. So now let's get into some Cy Young stuff. You wanted to you wanted to bring it up earlier. There's a race
Yeah,
in 2 leagues. I think there's more
I
of a race in one league,
I
but
think yeah, I think it's there's a race in both leagues. I mean, in the NL, it's got to be Paul Skeens at this
Skeens is the
point.
favorite at
It's
the
got to be
moment,
this
for
at
sure.
this point. But if you just have a look at what Zach Wheeler's doing, if he stays healthy throughout the remainder of the year, I mean, he's been
Yeah,
unreal.
you
I
couldn't
think
hit
it's
him. Yeah,
0.83 whip or 0.84 whip. I mean, that's truly, as a starting pitcher this far into the season, that's truly
doesn't even
unheard
make
of.
sense. It doesn't even make
And
sense.
it
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. So I think that Skeens Wheeler is an absolute race, which I think is a closer one. And I know you think probably the AL is probably just Scooble.
I think it's a foregone
He's
conclusion,
probably
honestly. I really
gone.
do. I really do. I don't think anyone.
Yeah.
I respect what Garrett Crochet is doing with Boston. I respect what Max Fried is doing with the Yankees. But Tariq
I mean,
Skubal, anytime he
look,
goes out, is 7 innings and he's not giving up a hit or not
yeah,
giving up
and
a run.
he's
It's
not, and he doesn't walk guys, which is
he
crazy
doesn't
to
walk
be a
guys and he
lefty
strikes out everybody.
that throws that hard with that much off speed. And if you watch his delivery, I mean, he's all over the place. Like as a left-handed batter, that would just be an
It's
absolute
a
nightmare to
nightmare.
face.
It's a nightmare.
And so, yeah, I think it's got to be Scooble right now. And when you look into the in-depth stats, it kind of agrees with it. But Crochet, I mean, he's really having a nice year. The ERA, I think it's like 2.5. He's got 150 strikeouts already. I mean, that dude throws the daylights out of the ball too. So, I mean, to me right now, it's Skeens and Scooble, but
Right. They're the favorites.
Skeens and Wheeler, I think, is
Skeens and Wheeler is a
absolutely
legit two-horse
anyone's
race.
race.
I think Skubal would have to give it up. Like Skubal would have to have some. He'd have to get touched up a little bit because if he keeps going at this pace, I mean, it's a foregone conclusion. Now
I
he'd
mean,
have to dip his level, or
and
Crochet
it
would have to.
feels
Yeah,
like, and it
but
feels like especially, and this is kind of getting into some semantics and politics, the little things that probably don't really matter. But
right.
Scooble gets to play for a team that's winning, and Scooble gets to play against the AL Central, which, as we mentioned, I think has one team over 500. Are the Royals over 500? Maybe a game over.
They
Like
might have just gotten over 500. They
they
are
they
no, they are three
barely.
games under.
So
They're
so
three
there's
games
only
under. They're
is
actually
that right that there's one team, or the Guardians I don't think are either.
no. They've
So
lost 11 to 12.
so
The
he gets to pitch
Twins.
the AL Central. The Twins are the Twins, and then the White Sox don't even mention the White Sox. Respect to my White Sox fans out there,
Right. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
so I think it'll be a little easier for Scooble. But also, I mean, there's the fact that he's going to get probably a $450 million contract coming soon. So I mean,
Yeah.
he's just so fun to watch, though, that dude. And like I said, you hear him talk about kind of the vibes in that Detroit dugout. I mean, that if I had to
They're
pick
having
one
fun.
team, that
Yeah.
would be my team. And overall, you probably think the Dodgers have the upper hand,
The
but it's like
talent. Yeah.
it's
But
baseball, like you got to come to
it's not
Detroit.
about talent in October, right? It's
It's
more
not at
about
all.
what you
It's about
said. Yeah.
who's hot when, and
Who's on
so
October? Yeah.
it's going to be a very fun race, both the Cy Young
No.
race and the playoff race. So
No, I totally agree with you. I think if I was to put, I still have a Mariners preseason bet to win the World Series. I'm about to throw it away unless they get some offense going here outside of
was
Cal
there?
Raleigh. But
Did you have a Cal Raleigh MVP slip in there? Maybe
that was not on my bingo card. I did not have him on pace for 60 something homers at this point in the
that's
year. But
ridiculous.
I said before the year started, the Mariners, where's the offense going to come from? I did not think Cal Raleigh would be the entire offense at this point. So
And he has been. And Julio Rodriguez, I think he's healthy, right? I mean,
he is.
he's been pretty underwhelming so
He
far.
has been. He got an
And
all-star spot over George Springer despite having a
yeah,
low
and
600s
and
OPS.
look, I can go in great depth about why the All-Star spots are kind of some junk with the fan voting. James Wood at the top of my mind with that
Right.
thought process. But you're absolutely right. I mean, if the Mariners want to be a team that competes for the AL West, and who knows, they'll probably get in as a wild card team because the
Yeah.
AL is it's pretty underwhelming this year.
Yeah.
But if they want to compete for the AL West, Julio Rodriguez is going to be one of those guys that has to produce. I mean, he's the
Has
face of
to.
your franchise. That's kind of the idea there. And so, and they played the Pirates, they played the Royals. They're not exactly playing tough teams. So I
No.
mean,
They're
we'll
playing the
see what
Yankees now, but we'll
they're
see
playing
what
the
they
Yankees
do there.
now,
But
and the Yankees, you just they're not playing great right now. So I mean,
yeah.
it's always fun to watch Raleigh and Judge, though. That's just
That's
good
yeah. They
TV.
both homered last night. It's just great
Yeah.
television. It's great cinema. But the AL, I agree with you. It's been completely underwhelming. So you don't really know who's good because they're not playing a lot of good teams in their own league. So yeah, it's interesting.
Mhm.
I think it'll make for a very fun October, a very unpredictable October, and we will see what happens. So yeah, thanks George for hopping on about the MLB stuff.
Yes,
We'll take a
sir.
quick break and we'll be back with maybe some college football stuff. We'll break down Clemson's 2025 football schedule and see if they will repeat as ACC champions this year.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right, welcome back. So we are still here with George, and we are going to talk about this Clemson football schedule coming up here in about a month and a half, where we start the season off against LSU in Death Valley, which
Hmm.
a battle of teams that play in Death Valley. So LSU is coming off. They have lost, by the way, 3 straight week 1 games under Brian Kelly. That's a little tidbit there, so that might go into Clemson's favor there. Big
Yeah.
opening non-conference game of the season. George, is this a game that Clemson should be favored to win? Like, is this a pick 'em? They have the home field advantage. Should they expect to be 1-0 heading into Troy? But
Yeah, I mean, it's a battle of two teams that hate winning the opener, at least as
they
of
do.
late. Clemson, as also they've lost 3 out of their last 4 openers, I believe.
Right.
Is that
Yes.
correct? So I mean,
Yes.
it's one of those things that a couple teams that sometimes come out a little slow. But to answer your question, I would say that Clemson should absolutely be favored to start to start the season off. Um, in my opinion, top to bottom, I think Clemson outmans LSU, especially up front, kind of O line, D line. I
Right.
know LSU, I think, has only 1 or 2 returning starters on the offensive line, and
Yep.
so Clemson
Lost a
Clemson
lot.
should be able to win up front, which is usually when in those top 10 games, especially early in the year, that's how you win those games. But it is a little ominous to know that we're not going to have exactly like a star running back to know we're gonna those going to tote the ball. But I mean, Cade Klubnik, he's one of the Heisman favorites. You've got the
He
best
is.
receiver room that we've had in so long.
Years, at least
I think
it's
that
T.
this
Higgins. Yeah.
since at least since probably 2019, 2020, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that this should be a 3.5, 4 point Clemson spread, if not even higher, in my opinion. I think Clemson's a
Yep.
team that could compete with anyone this coming season.
No, I agree. I actually think Clemson should win that game. Realistically, if it was a neutral site game, I'd be like, okay, this is a genuine coin toss. But it is in Clemson and it's a night game, which I think plays into their favor a little bit. Then you get Troy. I think it's an obvious win there. I'm really interested about this one. To open ACC play to go to Georgia Tech, I really am high on Georgia Tech this year. I think what Brent Key is doing is fantastic. He brings a lot of guys back. Haynes King, an experienced quarterback. You mentioned the experienced trench play early in season. I think experience at quarterback matters, or at least in early season play when you have
Absolutely.
guys that are going up against, if they're starting guys who are underclassmen, which Clemson is not in this case. But Haynes King is a guy who's been there a while, comes from Texas A&M, won some big games last year, beat Miami, almost beat Georgia in that 9 overtime crazy game.
Such a good
So
game, yeah.
noon game at Georgia Tech week 3. Is that a game that Clemson should be watching out for as like a trap? Not
Um,
necessarily a trap game because Georgia Tech's good and
I
we know they're
I
good,
would
but
say, yeah. I mean, to the untrained eye, non ACC fan, it'd be a trap game because usually
right.
Georgia Tech doesn't get a ton of respect outside of our conference. But I mean, I think that kind of the idea here is Clemson starts the year really the first 7 games. They play 6 of the best coaches that you'll
They
find
do.
anywhere in college football. I mean, Brian Kelly.
100%.
People have their takes about Brian Kelly. I believe Brian
He's a
Kelly's
great
still a good
coach.
coach. He's a
He's a great
great
coach,
coach.
yeah.
Brent Key, obviously, Fran Brown to follow, and then Bill Belichick
Bill
to
Belichick and
follow
Dabo
that, right?
Swinney, that's
So,
going to be
I mean,
incredible.
yeah, like but going back to Georgia Tech, I mean, I think that Georgia Tech is a team that I don't know if they'll compete for the ACC, but I think that week 3 at home against a
It's
good
tricky.
Clemson roster is kind of where we're going to find out exactly what Georgia Tech is. And with Haynes King under center, that it's going to be a run first team. They're going to play smash mouth
Right.
football, and they're going to try their
Shorten
absolute
the
best.
game.
They're going to
Right.
shorten the game, and they're going to try to win the turnover margin, hold on to the football. And so I think it just comes down to Clemson staying within themselves, similar to the LSU game. Obviously, I think Clemson's better top to bottom. There's not going to be a ton of games where we shouldn't be better top to bottom. But yeah, it's college football. I mean, it's the little things, but that's going to be a really fun one. And yeah, I mean that coaching gauntlet. And then even after UNC,
Crazy.
we've got a Bill O'Brien in Boston
Bill
College. So
O'Brien
there's
and,
which
and
is
Rhett Lashley, not too far
Brett
after that,
Lashley
and
right
Andy
behind him.
Diaz.
Exactly. Exactly. I
No,
mean, the
yeah,
ACC's got some dudes coaching this year, and Clemson's got a
if
real schedule.
right, they have a real schedule. In ACC's terms, it is a real schedule. SEC fans will laugh at this, but this is a real schedule in terms of the ACC.
I
Syracuse is not
mean,
easy. Syracuse always plays us well
yeah,
in Clemson. We go to
yeah.
UNC, and obviously Belichick is there. You get Boston College after that. Then you get SMU, one of the best teams in the ACC. You get it at home, but then it's another road game. So 3 road games in 4, and you get or no, Duke is at home as well.
Duke is at
Okay, so
home.
they do get Duke at home,
Yeah.
but they get the Tulane transfer Darian Mensah, who's a really nice player. So Duke won 9 games last year, and they're improving at quarterback. So this is not an easy schedule by any means. And then you get Florida
No,
State, which will be better than 2-10 last year. They will be better than two
exactly.
and ten. So
Exactly. I
out of that
mean,
5-game stretch there,
and then
UNC,
don't even
Boston
worry,
College,
you get
SMU,
Louisville
Duke,
right behind them.
and that's
It
the one I
it
want. When I went through this for the first time, I had Clemson at 11-1, and I think the loss is going to be at Louisville. It's one of those weird Friday night ACC games. You know
Yeah,
how
and
weird
I
those
hate
games always
that.
are.
I hate that so
Hate
much.
them because
But I
the
mean,
home team. It's always a little bit weird.
it's
It's
weird, especially away. I mean, you're just
exactly Friday night
everything's a day
away ACC
earlier,
games.
coming off of
Yeah,
a Florida State game where you know Florida State's going to be an intense game.
it'll be a beat up game, and then you're
You're
looking
in,
ahead to Furman. It's just a weird spot.
yeah,
To Yeah, it's a short week at Louisville. You could be looking ahead to Furman. You could be looking ahead to South Carolina, the Palmetto Bowl. It's the last game of the ACC schedule. It just feels like a game that I don't know if Clemson wins that game. It might be like last year. They remember they stole that game at Pitt with the Klubnik run late. It's one of those
yeah,
late season games I just don't feel good about at all.
yeah. No,
Um,
the
yeah,
Pitt game is definitely kind of exactly how what it reminded me of. Luckily, Clemson got the win in that
they
one.
did.
But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I think Louisville is going to be a team that I mean, that's you got Miller Moss coming in there, who I think that Miller Moss is one of the more underrated transfer
I
pickups
agree. I
over this
agree.
last cycle. When you play it at school like USC and you play for
Lincoln Riley.
Lincoln Riley, I almost said Garrett Riley. When you play for Lincoln Riley, I mean it oftentimes happens that the blame kind of falls on the quarterback immediately because it's like, oh, Lincoln Riley, quarterback whisperer, USC, infinite
Right.
resources. So it's like, all right, get Miller Moss out of here. And I think that Miller Moss, if I watched that game one against LSU, I thought he looked really solid, really good. And so when he's on time, when he's got time to prepare, that's no gimme. That's not a game that you can just like light walk right over and
He beat
walk right into
LSU
the
last year
firmament.
in the opener,
He
like you
beat
mentioned.
LSU
Yeah.
last year, exactly. And
Almost beat
and we
Michigan, or yeah, they've had some.
yeah, and Michigan is Michigan, but it's like Louisville's coming off a year last year where they beat us. So it's not like we're steamrolling Louisville. Louisville's a good
No,
program.
they're a good team. Yeah.
But I think for that same reason, the guy should be ready, and there's no reason you should take it for granted, right? I mean, you're gonna have a
Yeah.
short week coming off two tough games in a row, and I get
Yeah.
all that, but I expect the boys to come out firing. I've got a lot of faith in this Clemson team this year, and that's again
As
one
you
of those
should.
games I just can't wait to see.
I can't wait to see either. There's a revenge factor from last year, like you mentioned. So we want to talk about Furman. We'll take a quick break and we'll talk about the Palmetto Bowl, which obviously has a lot of talk about it from last year and how it ended in Clemson with Lenore Sellers. Both those quarterbacks are returning. So we will talk about that right after this quick break. All right, so we are back to discuss the infamous Palmetto Bowl, not the one last year, the one this year in South Carolina, up in Columbia. So, George, we don't have to talk too much. We haven't spent too much time about the game last year, which obviously did not go well for us, but we ended up backing our way into the ACC championship game anyways later on that day. This year,
Oh
South
yeah.
Carolina is supposed to be good, and Clemson is obviously supposed to be good. So this could be a very, very interesting end of season Palmetto Bowl with big stakes on the line. Obviously, in the 12-team playoff, there were stakes last year, but more so just for Clemson because South Carolina didn't have a real path to the playoff. Their fans will tell you differently, but it was basically they would have had to hope for a bunch of different things to happen. All Clemson had to do was make the ACC title game and win it, which they did. So, what's the outlook for the Gamecocks and the Tigers this year? Because that game has on paper right now has a lot of implications, at least looking ahead, if things go the way we think they'll go.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, last year, Clemson, Carolina, one of the most absurd days of football I've ever experienced. I
Oh,
mean, it's rivalry Saturday after Thanksgiving. It's always awesome. But like seeing the Miami game, just truly unreal. But
unbelievable.
moving kind of towards this year, I think for Clemson, it's pretty simple. It's don't let number 16 beat you, right? I mean, you watched the game last year. I've got the stats pulled up here, and we don't have to go too far into it.
Yeah.
But I mean, he only passed for 164 yards. He threw a pick, but he rushed for 166 on 10.6 yards a carry and two touchdowns. I mean, if he's running for a first down every time he carries the ball, it's just not a
Can't
very
it's hard
productive
to win like
defense,
that.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, like I said earlier about the LSU game, I think tops to bottom, we're not worried about them, about outmanning us, out skilling us, out athleting us.
Right.
But it's a different beast. You know, you go into the Palmetto Bowl and it comes down to the little things. It's who wants it more, who's gonna make that tackle, who's gonna and who gets the spot sometimes. You know, sometimes it's your uncontrollables. But yeah, I mean, it comes down to controlling Lenore Sellers and tackling as a unit, I think. I mean,
Tackling
it was one
him
of the things I was really
specifically.
excited
Yes.
tackling him specifically, absolutely. And then, like, obviously, they've got other weapons, guys like Nick Harbor, who at any given moment could go for 200 yards with that speed.
Yeah.
But I mean, our defensive, especially our secondary, is going to be really strong this year.
I like
We
it. I
brought
was
in a
going to
couple
mention that.
guys.
Yeah.
We brought
Yeah.
in Will Helt. We brought in that the linebacker. I want to say it's Jeremiah Alexander from Alabama. A
Yep.
couple guys up front that should make it a little easier. But I think the biggest key for this game, and we still haven't seen him yet, but is going to be Tom Allen, right? I mean, you brought in defensive coordinator. You brought in the Penn State defensive coordinator. Penn State consistently over
They
the
just
last
breed pass
couple of
rushers.
seasons
Yeah.
breed pass rushers. I mean, Micah Parsons, Abdul Carter. You can't say enough about those kind of guys. And to me though as well, you watched Penn State in that playoff last year, and that team just rallied to the ball and they tackled and they rallied as a unit, which I think that if you watch some of that Carolina Clemson game back, and I've watched a lot of the film from that game
Yep.
back, just kind of partly out of anger and partly out of I want to
What
know what went
happened? How
down
did this
because
go
when you
wrong?
watch it,
Right. Yeah.
what exactly? Why can't we tackle this kid? But you watch it back. I mean, you've got studs everywhere on that D line. You got NFL talent everywhere, and hopefully this year we're going to have Demonte Capehart back, which is a
Right.
huge piece
And
that we'll get
yeah,
into,
and
I'm sure.
Yep.
But But I think the biggest thing is rushing as a unit. You know, when you drop two guys back, when you have a spy or something, you got to be able to communicate and you got to be able to maintain the pocket. And I think we just couldn't do that. And part of that is credit to what the way Lenore Sellers runs the football. But I think the way Tom Allen's kind of been getting our boys ready, I'm really excited to see the way we tackle coming out this year because that's a huge deal for us.
Those quarterbacks specifically are always the toughest ones to deal with. I remember when Lamar came to Clemson and just completely that game was a mind, you know
One of the
what?
best
So
games of all time.
incredible. But yeah, last year when I watched it back, I was like, okay, can we not tackle him? Like we don't have the athletes to tackle him, or was it something else? And it looked like around that third or fourth quarter, we felt like we didn't even want to tackle him anymore. It was almost like a running back, like a Derrick Henry against Baltimore a couple of years. I think it was 2019 when he ran.
As the
That was like an
Titans, and he
all-time
just
great.
he just sprinted on him.
But the longer the game went on, the less the Ravens wanted to tackle this big dude. It's a four-quarter
Mhm.
game. A guy that speed, that size, you get tired of tackling those kind of guys. And Lenore Sellers, it wasn't just
Absolutely.
getting out of the sacks, because obviously he was able to do that in the first half. We had a couple sacks. I'm like, how do we not sack this guy? And then in the fourth quarter, in the third quarter, it turned into like 16, 17-yard runs. And it almost
Mhm.
felt like, okay, who can bring this guy down? But that's what you mentioned about obviously you get Peter Woods year three, you get TJ Parker with who's the pass rusher now. He's had Tom Allen has had pass rushers just like TJ Parker in the past. So this is almost a marriage, a perfect marriage, if you will. You get a year two Sammy Brown at linebacker, year two Ashton Hampton on the outside. I like our secondary a lot. You mentioned it. I think it's gonna be a really strong unit this year. But Lenora Sellers, when he got into the second level, it was not their best day. At least now through
Isn't-
the air, like you said, he only had like 150 yards passing or something like that. But South Carolina didn't really have a lot of weapons last year to throw the ball to, and it
Yeah.
was more
Yeah.
so. I think in the third quarter, South Carolina literally said, "You know what? Our best offense is Lenore Sellers running the ball, so we're just gonna go with that because they can't seem to stop it, and we really
Yeah.
couldn't." So this year, I think that we have the pieces obviously to stop him, and I think Tom Allen is the big people talk about it, but it's more of the underrated because we all talk about the transfer portal and who gets better, who gets worse. Going from Wes Goodwin to Tom Allen, I think, is one of the more not talked about, but really is talked about upgrades of the offseason from a coaching standpoint.
Yeah.
Bringing in a defensive
Yeah.
coordinator. So and he's a championship
No,
winning defensive coordinator. Like this is a guy who can absolutely win it.
yeah.
He can bolster a championship defense. We've seen it. And we've seen when Clemson has a championship defense, they're in the championship picture. So
Mhm.
that's how it's going. I'm circling it because of Lenore Sellers, specifically what he did last year, and how does Clemson fare over there
Yeah.
against him this year? Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and I don't want to disrespect Wes Goodwin. I mean, he's a good guy. I love the effort that he put into the program, but it kind of felt like he maybe got a shot a little earlier than he needed to. I mean, being
yeah,
the defensive coordinator at Clemson, you got to be a leader of men. You know, you don't want to rely on your talent to elevate you. You want to elevate your talent, you know? And it kind of felt like Wes Goodwin, well, I'm sure he meant well, and I'm not going to say he's a bad coach or
no,
anything.
yeah,
He wasn't a leader of men. And you watch some of the practice clips, you watch some of the way Tom Allen kind of goes about his business, and he's well
it's a
respected.
different,
He's
yeah,
a loud vocal coach, and he's getting in there with the guys. And I really like that. And you talked about Peter Woods and obviously TJ Parker, Demonte Capehart up front. I think one of the biggest things, and is what I've heard this year, is that Peter Woods is going to be able to go and actually play his natural position as opposed to he's kind of playing the seven technique outside, playing kind of the tackle, playing the tight end technique because we didn't have a ton of depth on the outside. And so we
yeah,
needed a guy who was, you could argue Peter Woods is the best athlete in the entire
on the entire
conference,
field,
just
on
the
the
way
entire
the
field,
way
yeah.
he moves. I mean, that guy's a beast. But being able to have him actually kind of in the 2-eye, in the one, playing under center is going to be a lot more fun to watch. And I think he's just going to absolutely tear things up.
Yeah, I don't know if we've had a guy like him since like a Christian Wilkins who could play the three tech. He can play everything. Wilkins was one of the few guys who could literally you can plug and play him anywhere on the defensive line
Yeah.
and watch him go to work. Peter Woods is such a good athlete. I legitimately think they could put him anywhere and he
And
could
he
work.
succeeded last year. He was great. But
Exactly.
being able to
But
play one
if he's in his
position,
best position, Tom Allen is I have no I have all the faith in the world that he knows what he's doing, obviously. So,
absolutely.
but yeah, Peter Woods is one of those guys where the talent's already there, but I do think Tom Allen will develop that into even like he could
Yeah.
be a top this time next year we could be like he'd be like, okay, Peter Woods top 10 pick. He's
Yeah, I
that
mean,
good.
you look ahead, and obviously we've got a whole season to play, and you can't predict kind of the unpredictables, the injuries, who knows what not. But you look top to bottom on that kind of way too early round one mock draft,
Right.
and there's
They're
tiger
there.
paws everywhere,
They're
defensively
there.
especially. I mean, you got your argument for Cade Klubnik and maybe an Antonio Williams if he can have a really nice year, could
Right.
be maybe a first round guy. But I mean, TJ Parker, that's a top 5 level pick if he has the year he could
If
have.
a pass rusher,
Avion
yeah, pass
Terrell,
rusher specifically, 'cause it's a premium
obviously.
position.
Peter
Yeah.
Woods, obviously. I mean, there's guys everywhere that could succeed at the next level. And so I think it just obviously it comes down to everyone buying in, which you never have a problem with at Clemson. I mean, you come to Clemson and it's a little different. Everyone says their school's a little different, but truly it is a little different. I mean, I'm not going to get too much into it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so and especially lately, we've kind of seen a recruiting resurgence for
Yeah.
Clemson.
Oh
This
yeah.
this 2026 cycle has been one of the best cycles we've had in at least the last 4 years. I mean, ever since kind of NIL became a thing, this new kind of
It's been a little bit, yeah.
salary cap format has been
Right.
better for us now that we're kind of able to actually allocate specific funds. I think that's helped us out. And so yeah, I think that the direction the program's going in is great. I still trust Dabo. I know he gets all the hate in the world. That's part of being a D1 college football coach. And yeah, so I'm excited, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, I quickly on Dabo because I wasn't hating on Dabo. I just felt like there was a little bit, and this was a couple years ago, and I think we were 4-4, and there was some
I mean,
chatter. I thought there was some
Clemson
rightful
should never be
chatter.
4-4.
Yeah, they were 4-4, and it was like, okay, what are we doing here? Are we just not going to adjust? Are we going to be complacent with this kind of average play in terms of Clemson standards? It was average play on both sides of the
Mhm.
ball, but it
Yeah,
seems like they've definitely written the ship,
not even, and
and
I probably was below average. Yeah.
it was probably below average. Yeah, there's some of the performance. I was like, okay, can we get a yard on any short yardage play? It was a little bit ridiculous, but I think that
Can we get
they.
here?
I'm talking about the 2022 season, I think, or what? No, that was the DJ Cinco season. 2023 season, we were 4-4, and they were up in arms about
Yeah,
what
four
does
and
this
four.
offense look like? What is the it was a rough first 8 games. Then they finished the last four with a
Mhm.
win. They finished with four straight wins, and they beat Kentucky in the Tax Slayer Bowl, whatever it was.
Yeah,
But
that was. I
yeah,
think that was the
that was
buy
the
all you
if
can
you're
buy
buying your
stock
stock, buy
quote.
it now. That was
Yeah,
in right now he looks like a genius because if you bought stock then, that you look pretty good right now. But yeah, that was a
you do. You look great.
rough. Exactly. If you bought stock then, yeah. But at that time, it was 4-4, and we got Notre Dame coming into town. It was not pretty. It was not pretty, and it seemed like we were not adjusting to the new landscape that is college football. And then you look 18 months later, and Clemson's one of the five favorites to win the national championship. So now we'll see. They still have to put the product on the field because last year you can't just point at last year and be like, "Oh, see, we proved everybody wrong." Because we went 9-3 and we lost to three SEC teams: Texas,
No,
LSU,
yeah,
and South Carolina. So we didn't pass any tests by any means. This is going to be an interesting year to see if we can pass those tests. Going 0-3 against the SEC last year, you get one right off the bat against LSU. You get one at the end of the year against South Carolina. And again,
and you're probably going to get one.
you're probably gonna get one if you make yeah, exactly. If you win the ACC again, guess what? You're probably gonna get an SEC team in the playoff again. So they're not going anywhere. There's nowhere to hide.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I'm optimistic like you. I'm cautiously optimistic because I still want to see them do it first. If they beat LSU week one, I'll probably be all the way in, just like you. So very,
yeah,
very interesting stuff. College football is coming around. We got an August 31st date against the LSU Tigers, which is,
yeah. There's
can you
going to be
believe only a
football
month?
played next month.
Next month,
Next
we are going
month
to have
there will
football
be
play.
football,
Meaningful football, not just like,
meaningful football. What is it?
yeah.
August 23rd? I think we got some week 0 games
Week
even.
zero games,
So
right? That's what I'm saying. People
so
think
we
August
got
football,
we
they're
got
thinking,
every
oh, week zero. No, there's actually some August
no
week
week
one
one.
game.
Week one
100%.
sneaks in.
Ohio State,
Yeah,
Texas. There's some heavy hitters. Week one.
yeah. I mean, where's game day going? Have they announced yet? I don't
Ohio
know
State,
if they
Texas,
have.
because it's Lee
Ohio
Corso's
State,
last
Texas.
one, and they're going to
Yeah,
Texas, Ohio State.
I think that Clemson and LSU might be the best game played that day, but
100%. I
obviously I'm a
think it's
little
the best game play.
biased.
They're going to Ohio State, Texas. Obviously, Ohio State's the reigning defending national champions, but it's also Lee
That's
Corso's last.
understandable.
It's Lee Corso's last game day pick. He's not doing the whole season. He's only doing week one, and obviously his first love is Brutus, so we know where that's going. Week
Yeah.
one,
No, I
he's
mean,
going
yeah, it's got a respect for Lee Corso, of
100%,
course.
100%, a living
But
legend.
I
But
mean, it's interesting. I saw it was Josh Pate was talking about it. I'm sure you know who Josh Pate is.
yes,
He
JP.
uh he was talking about kind of being a window program versus being a consistent contender in college football. And I really liked what he said about that because it kind of feels like right now Clemson is on the
Teetering.
precipice of both.
Right.
It's they're teetering. They're kind of riding the fence. And it's like you have the best team you've had in so long. This upcoming season, you got a returning quarterback, all these kind of great
Right.
things. But I think at the end of the day, the truly impressive thing is that the 2026 recruiting cycle, we have a top 10 or top 7 class in the 2026 cycle, right? And so if you want to be a team that's a window program who competes once a year, and I'm not here to disrespect anyone, but kind of like Ole Miss
Sure.
or
Yeah.
kind of like South Carolina or
Every now and then they'll
what's
come up. Yeah.
what's
Yeah. Yeah.
what's a Big Ten team? Like a Washington the other
Sure.
year,
Yeah.
like Washington loaded up, they made the national championship and lost their coach and 30 players, right? And so when it comes down to it, you want your team, and obviously for every sport, you want your team to be a consistent contender. And I think that Dabo has kind of done such a good job of one being able to keep the main thing, because there's
Sure.
been so much noise and so many things changing college football. When Dabo was winning his titles, although it was only what 6 years ago,
Wasn't that
six
long
to eight
ago.
years ago now,
Yeah.
it feels like it was 20 years in terms of the difference in the landscape of the sport.
It was a much different
And
sport
it's
then.
kind of
Yeah.
like completely different sport. And I'm not saying that there was no scandal back then, that players probably were getting paid under the table. I don't know what I don't know about
Right.
that era of college sports, right? But being able to watch him kind of adjust to the NIL era and bounce back, and hopefully, if he does what we're saying he's going to do, obviously they still got to go out and play. But if
Right.
he does what we think he's going to do, it's so impressive to think kind of the turnaround Dabo's had. And you say turnaround, it's not like we were bad ever, but I mean it's such a tough job to be able to win. What was it, for 11 years in a row? We won 10 plus games. I think
It's
it's
crazy.
17 years in a row. We've won 9 plus games. So I mean, it's
The
truly impressive.
consistency picking
So
that, yeah. Because we just saw it last year, Florida
and
State went from 13-0 to 2-10. It can happen that fast. And
exactly,
for
which is
Clemson to
I've never
remain,
seen that before.
no. For Clemson to remain that consistently good for that long is a testament to their head coach, obviously. But it's impressive. I don't know what's more impressive. Obviously, being consistent for that long is very impressive. But honestly, I think the most impressive part is for him actually adjusting to this new landscape, because this is not a landscape that he initially was interested in. The paying players thing. He initially was
Mhm.
not really interested
He
in
said
this.
he'd
This
retire. Yeah,
he said if this is what the new college football is, I'm not doing it. And
mhm.
we've seen a kind of a 180 of you know, he's now thriving, embracing in this new era of
Yeah,
college football that we are seeing. It really is. It's like, because the bus is moving, so you either got to go with it. It's not going to stop for you. So,
yeah. Get off the track, or you got to get on the
or you
bus. You know,
exactly, yeah, you got to go because they're not stopping for you. And Dabo's like, all right, well, I guess we got to get on the train tracks. We got to get on because,
absolutely.
and
Yeah, I
he,
mean, and I love that he does things his own way. You know, he doesn't want to be in a bidding war. Nobody wants to be in a bidding war. That's not really the essence of college
not really
football.
college football.
The
It's
essence
more
of college.
NFL.
The essence of college football is the feeling of a Saturday, is the feeling of being at the game. And so his ability to keep the main thing the main thing. You can't say enough good things about Dabo Sweeney and the Clemson coaching staff.
I completely agree with you. So yeah, no, that's a little bit of Clemson for you. We got RC South Carolina. We talked about them, and it looks like, Clemson is the favorite to win the ACC this year. Real quick before we head off here, what is your ceiling? Obviously, the ceiling should be a national championship, realistically, on paper. What would be like your realistic goal of this would be a good season if we did this? Because now the new seeding, it's not like if you win the ACC, you're a top four seed. Obviously, we won the ACC
Yeah,
last year, and we were not a top four seed, but it's not an
you're
automatic.
12.
Right. They don't give automatic bids. They give automatic bids to conference winners, but they don't give the automatic top four.
They don't give the buys. Yeah.
Right. So Boise State won't be getting a bye this year. If Clemson wins the ACC, but they're not a top four team, they will not be getting a bye this year. So what would be like
Yeah.
we don't get an automatic qualifier into the quarterfinals. We'd have to still, but so what
Yeah.
what
I
would be like
mean,
a very realistic, but I'm very happy with the season we just had. I'm assuming making the playoff obviously is a big goal, but
yeah, you got to assume that a team like this is going to make the playoffs. I mean, you're coming back with the same quarterback who just made the playoffs. Granted, he did lose 3 games, and so you obviously
we
don't
kind
want
of
to lose
backed our
three
way in. We
games
weren't a
anymore.
top 12 team, but we did back
Kind
our
of
way.
back, exactly. We backed our way and got a little lucky, but we won that ACC championship. You got to respect that.
100%.
But to me, I think that anything short of a semifinal appearance, I would say, would be a little bit underwhelming. I
Wow.
mean, obviously, the standard is the standard. You know, I mean, when you put best as the standard on your wall, you got to mean that. And yeah, I think it's very doable. I think, like you said, the ceiling is a national championship. I think that
And it
there's
should be.
there's a lot of people out there who would right now, if you had to pick, would pick Clemson to win the national championship.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, college football is about a lot of things. It's about sorry, it's about quarterback play, it's about defense, but it's about returning production. And I think that Clemson has all those things in their favor for this upcoming season. So I mean, I'd love to see an 11-1, 12-0 season and be one of those top 4 teams in the playoffs and win a game or two, because obviously I know Dabo can do it. He's, in my opinion, he's a big game coach.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He
Yeah.
almost at times
His
plays to the
teams will
level of his
rise.
competition.
Right.
His teams will rise and sometimes his teams will fall. You know, you got games like that Louisville game last year. And I say that I wanted to bring that up to mention that not only was obviously that Louisville game super disappointing, but part of that Louisville game was the environment in Death Valley. It
Yeah.
felt like at halftime, there was almost a sense of not giving up because it was
But
like
we're,
a
but we're
3 point
dead.
game or
If
whatever
I
it
felt
was.
like that in the stadium too. It
But
was like,
it was like
okay.
we're dead. Exactly. And it was like, why is this like, this is not Clemson. This is not Death Valley.
In
This is
in
not
past years, I think fans would have the
85,000.
belief that we'll come back, but I don't think that the fans had the
Yeah.
belief that we will come back in that game.
Yeah, and that's crazy to me. You gotta have faith in your guys, you know. And I think part of that was that week 1 Georgia loss that kind of set the tone for the season.
Exactly. It
And in
once
a way,
once
kind of
yeah,
it really hurt
because
us.
they got blown out in that game, I think it kind of gave fans some PTSD of the previous year when they started 4-4 and they were getting their doors blown off by like Duke and the likes of those
Mhm.
teams, or NC State and the likes of those
Yeah.
teams. So it kind of just reminded fans, okay, when has Clemson really came back in a game where they started off really poorly in? And I think that that game later on in the season against Pitt was a big, not that they got off to a poor start, but that's that Pitt game, if you remember, they were in such a dead spiral the second half. They had like one first down in like a 30-minute span. It was a nightmare. And then they were able
Yeah.
to pull it out of there. Yeah, and they were able to pull out of there with a win. But yeah, the Louisville game, right? You said the energy was kind of dead in the stadium when they were down at halftime, and
Mhm.
Tyler Shuck was running all over him. But not to
Yeah.
give an excuse to the
That's
fans,
second
but
round pick, Tyler Shough.
right, exactly. Now Saints starting quarterback Tyler Shuck. But yeah, the Clemson getting off to that bad start against Georgia and scoring 3 points, I think it was 6 points in week one last year, didn't
It was
give
6-3 at half, I think.
6-3 at half, and I think Clemson
And
ended
then
up did they end up scoring just three?
34-3 total.
34-3. So
No, yeah,
they
just
only had
three.
3 points. So it kind of gave fans like oh, really? This is how we're going to do offensively again this year? But and again, that Louisville game was a disaster. But they were able to
Hmm.
late in the year put it together. Unfortunately, the South Carolina game, they did nothing in the second half offensively. They literally had like two first downs in the second half of that Carolina game. So that was a little bit annoying. They'll revert back at times to some stagnant play offensively. But like you said, with all the returning
Sure.
production and this receiving core, it really there's no way to think really that it would happen as largely as it does this year. Like you would think that they would not have these lulls. The last year is fine excuse because like you said,
Hmm.
it was a couple of freshman receivers. The running game was in and out, Phil Maffa, blah blah blah. So we didn't have that much with Cade to help him out. It was a
O
lot of just
line,
Cade like
inconsistency.
right. But this year, there's really no excuse to have these offensive lulls where you have like quarters without a first down or like because again, we sat at 14 points against South Carolina and it
Yeah.
wasn't enough. We can't just sit at 14 points and beat these good teams. So you
Yeah.
gotta against SEC
Yeah.
teams, you can't score
I
three.
absolutely agree.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Georgia, you score 3 points.
Yeah.
South
I
Carolina
mean,
scored 14
and
points.
and I think that absolutely. Yeah. You said exactly my kind of point was that when you play the competition that it takes to win a national
You
championship,
gotta
you got
rise
to
to
be
the
able to
occasion.
stand up to them.
Right.
And so obviously last year you watched that playoff game. It was all about being able to defend the run. We
Yeah.
got ran all over by Texas. And I think that, like I said earlier, we're going to tackle a little bit better this year. But absolutely, when those lulls in the offense come by, you just can't have that. Because if you're giving up, I mean, South Carolina had a good offense last year.
They
You
did.
give up just 17 points to that
You
team,
should win
you
that
should have
game.
won that game.
Yeah.
And there was turnovers. There was the pick at the very end, which was absolutely heartbreaking,
Yeah.
and it got tipped in X, Y, and Z. But I mean, like you don't want to put the ball in the hands of a
A
bounce.
bad
You want to
bounce,
go out
it
there
can
and
happen to
dominate up
anyone.
front.
Yeah. It's uncontrollables. Right.
Exactly. Exactly. And so it comes down to the little things, obviously, and I've said it the whole time, but man, it's gonna be that Palmetto Bowl. I cannot wait for it. Get a
It's
little
gonna be
revenge on
juiced
that
up.
team.
Yeah, I cannot wait to go in there and silence the critics, if you will, and silence that stadium again. We've had success there in the past.
Yeah.
We've not lost there in a
Yeah.
while. So yeah, so that's the rest of the rundown. We got some baseball in, we got some Clemson football in. George, thanks for hopping on with us today. And yeah, we'll see what happens after this MLB All-Star break and see if we called some trades happen. Maybe the Yankees make a move. Maybe the Phillies add
Yeah.
a bullpen guy. We'll see if we end up looking like we know what we're talking about here. But yeah, appreciate you hopping on with us today
Yes, sir.
and talking some ball.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. Look forward to doing it again soon.
All right, let's wrap it up here with some Wimbledon topics here just quickly. The quarterfinals are set. They were actually set yesterday. Sinner, the big storyline here was Sinner advancing over Grigor Dimitrov, despite Dimitrov having the two-set to love lead. In the third set, he got hurt his pec. Just a devastating ending to what he was playing some great, great tennis. And Yannick Sinner gets a reprieve, and he advanced to take on Ben Shelton. He ended up just beating Ben Shelton a couple hours ago in straight sets. So Yannick Sinner, boom, boom, he's in the semifinals, and he didn't even win a set in the round of 16. He got through based off of the Dimitrov injury, which you just hate to see it because Dimitrov was playing semifinal worthy tennis, and he could have easily made his way down there. And he's older, and it feels a little snake bitten for him. But Yannick Sinner, the world number one, survives based on some an uncontrollable from him for him and an injury to Dimitrov, but he survives, advances, faces Ben Shelton, and beats him in straight sets. So Yannick Sinner into the semifinals. Djokovic battles back. He was tested by Demonor. The Demon had him running around all day, and Djokovic dropped the first set, won the next three relatively easily, and then just wrapped up a performance against the Italian today, number 22 in the world. He was able to beat him in four competitive sets. He lost the first set tiebreaker, easily won the second set, and was able to win sets three and four, 6-4, 6-4, I believe it was. But yeah, Djokovic back in another semifinal, his 14th Wimbledon semifinal. He's looking for his seventh Wimbledon title, which would tie only Roger Federer if he's able to beat Sinner and then make his way to the championship again for the third year in a row, where he would probably face Alcaraz for the third year in a row. Some Americans are in the semifinals. We have Taylor Fritz. I called this, by the way, in my first episode. I said Taylor Fritz, I think, will get out of his quarter and get to the semifinals. He did. He's playing incredible golf right now. Like, this is not to go understated. He may very well lose tomorrow or whatever it is to Alcaraz. Very well could lose in the semifinals. He's still playing incredible tennis right now. That is not to be taken away. He's earned his way to the semifinal. Obviously, there's seeds that went down, blah, blah, blah. But he beat Karen Khachanov, the 17 seed. He was able to get through some five setters before that, but he's been absolutely incredible. He's not the only American in the semifinals. We have an American woman in the semifinals at Wimbledon. Amanda Anisimova is into the semifinals. She's been playing incredible tennis as well. Won a tiebreak and was able to win it in straight sets yesterday to punch her ticket to the semifinals. And she will take on world number one Aryna Sabalenka, who has yet to melt down. And if she doesn't, she will easily win. So you're basically just hoping that Sabalenka has but Sabalenka has looked human for sure. She looked human against Raducanu, dropped the set. Looked human against the German she faced the other day, Sigmund, and dropped the set. But she's still kind of coasted through. Even dropping a set, she's kind of still coasted through both of those. Well, she didn't drop a set against Raducanu, but she had a tiebreak, and then those are two tough sets. But nonetheless, it's going to be Sabalenka against Anisimova in the first women's semifinal. The other one is Iga Swiatek. She just advanced, so those are the two heavy favorites. Obviously, Swiatek, she's playing incredible on grass. I said it, I was like, oh, Swiatek, I'd pick her, but her service isn't being very good. Well, her service back, and this is like her worst surface too, playing on grass, and she's been incredible. So, go figure. So we're probably heading to an Iga Swiatek versus Aryna Sabalenka Wimbledon final, which is what we could have gotten in Roland Garros, but Coco Gauff or rather, they played in the semifinals in Roland Garros. Sabalenka beat Iga and then lost to Coco. So we're getting a semifinal rematch, possibly in the final for Wimbledon. So, but I would not count out Anisimova because she's been playing really good tennis. But Sabalenka is obviously the favorite there. So yeah, but two Americans in the last eight on the men's side, Fritz and Ben Shelton. Ben Shelton obviously just lost today, but nonetheless, a good American showing. Fritz going to the semifinal, Ben Shelton going to the quarterfinal, Anisimova going to the semifinal, and she's not done yet. So good stuff from the Americans. Final four predictions. I'm still going to go Alcaraz, and I'm still going to go Sinner. That has not changed for me. Even though Sinner did, there's going to be an asterisk. If Sinner wins this tournament, there's going to be an asterisk beside it because of the retirement from Dimitrov, despite Dimitrov leading 2-0 over Sinner. Yet Sinner's still getting through. But yeah, I would favor Sinner over Djokovic, even though Djokovic on this court can't ever count him out. It just seems like the age is if a 38-year-old Novak Djokovic can beat world number one Jannik Sinner, man, because he played Sinner in the semifinals at Roland Garros and he lost in straight sets. So that was only a month ago. So is Novak so much better on grass to where that could potentially flip? Maybe, but I would still favor Sinner there. And then Alcaraz should take care of Taylor Fritz, despite Taylor Fritz playing really good tennis. That should be. And Alcaraz has been dropping some sets. He dropped a set to Rublev. Rublev played him really, really well. He dropped a set to Struve. Struve played him really well. He was in a 5-setter day one against Fabio Fognini. So Alcaraz he gets bored sometimes. He drops sets from time to time. But yeah, that Fritz Alcaraz could be a 4 or 5 set thriller. I have a hard time imagining anyone beating Alcaraz on grass at this point. So it should be Carlos and Sinner again, like we had a month ago in the Roland Garros final. I expect to see it again this Sunday in the Wimbledon final. And in the women's, I'll go with Sabalenka and Swiatek. I'll be the token. You kind of just I'll go chalk. Although I really would like to see an American in the Wimbledon final, and Amanda is playing incredible tennis right now. So can she beat Sabalenka? Sure. If she does, she might win the whole thing. That's how tough of a task it is to beat Sabalenka, who's just so powerful, so forceful, so ferocious. It's a different level watching her play tennis and watching other women play tennis. She is just on another level right now. When she's right. So yeah, that's right now where we're standing in Wimbledon. We have the semifinals have been set, and my predictions are Alcaraz Sinner, and I'm gonna go Alcaraz over Sinner. I'm gonna go Alcaraz over Sinner. Just until Alcaraz loses on grass, he's back-to-back champion. It'd be hard. No, I think I'm gonna go Sinner. I'm gonna go Sinner actually. Final prediction is I keep going back and forth. See, this is what I'm saying. They're both incredibly good. I think this is Sinner's time. I really do. He's yet to win a Wimbledon title. It just feels like this is his best chance. The reprieve to Dimitrov, say what you want, but he's through, and he beats Shelton relatively easily today in straight sets, and Shelton was playing incredible. And Alcaraz has looked a little shaky. He's looked shaky enough this tournament to where I'm going to go Sinner. Despite Sinner having an Alcaraz problem, is he's lost four of the last five they played. I think it's 7-6 all time, but he's lost four of the last five. So Alcaraz is getting him more often now. But I'm gonna go Sinner this time. I think Sinner wins Wimbledon over Alcaraz in another 5-set thriller. So that's my prediction. And I'm gonna go Sabalenka over Swiatek in the women's. So number ones for both is what we're gonna go with. Thanks for tuning into this podcast. Episode 2 is now in the books. This is going to probably go out either today or tomorrow, but we are shooting weekly episodes this month of July since we're in a dead period. But we will be trying to come out with 2 or 3 episodes a week once we get closer to August. Football season, we're going to have a lot of content coming. So that's it for episode 2. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you next time.